Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling, well, a giant. A subject so vast, so influential, and frankly, so monumental that trying to summarize her career feels less like analysis and more like, trying to bottle lightning.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We are talking about Beyoncé Giselle Knowles-Carter, an artist, widely seen as one of the most culturally significant figures, one of the greatest entertainers of the 21st century. And her career now spans, over 3 decades?
Well over 3 decades. And it really does need this kind of deep dive because the sheer scale of her impact, commercially, artistically, it can be just overwhelming if you don't break it down.
Right.
So our mission today really is to give you a shortcut, like a blueprint, if you will, to understand the structure behind those legendary artistic reinventions she pulls off. The sharp business sense that's driven her rise, to corporate power, and some of the actually quite surprising historical facts that define her work. We want to move past the endless headlines and look at the patterns, the profound cultural influence she hasn't just followed, but actually, created.
And the scope is just huge. It's covering everything from, those early talent show days, the massive success of Destiny's Child, right, up through the game-changing visual albums, Parkwood Entertainment, her whole empire, and her current big trilogy projects.
Yeah, it's a lot. And just to set the stage for why this is so necessary, let's just quickly throw out some numbers. Contextualize the records.
Okay.
As of now, she is the most RIAA certified female artist ever.
Wow.
And she holds this chart record that just speaks volumes about her consistency, her fan loyalty. She's the only woman whose first 8 studio albums have each debuted consecutively at #1 on the U.S. Billboard 200.
8 consecutive #1 albums. That's, that kind of consistency is just unheard of.
Exactly. And maybe most famously, she's the most awarded individual in Grammy history. She's clocked in with, what is it now, a staggering 35 total wins.
35. It's hard to even process that number.
Right. So this longevity combined with just extreme critical and commercial success, that's what we're here to unpack.
35 Grammys. Okay, let's definitely unpack this. Let's start at the beginning, the foundation.
Sounds good.
The story kicks off, of course, in Houston, Texas. Beyoncé Giselle Knowles, born September 4, 1981. Her early life, it sometimes gets glossed over, doesn't it? We focus on the superstar.
Mm-hmm.
But those roots, especially the family, the ethnic heritage, they seem really fascinating and maybe inform her later work.
Oh, they absolutely do. It's crucial. When you look at her heritage, it's this incredible blend of deep American and European history. Her father, Matthew Knowles, is African-American.
Yeah.
And he had, a serious job as a sales manager at Xerox back then.
A corporate background.
Yeah. And her mother, Tina, is Louisiana Creole. Now, that's significant because that heritage traces back through African French, Irish, Breton, Norman, even Native American roots.
Wow.
And, get this, the genealogy also includes Belgian ancestry from Hainaut Province, Wallonia.
That's a remarkable mix of cultures.
Yeah.
And it speaks so directly to those those historical intersections she explores later, doesn't it? Like in Lemonade or Cowboy Carter.
Exactly.
This diverse history rooted right there in the American South, it feels like it must have become this sort of subconscious wellspring for her genre explorations later on.
Precisely. And, before she ever hit a major stage, her first job was actually super typical, a kind of working class. She swept hair at her mom's salon headliners.
Ah, really? Sweeping hair.
Yep. And sometimes she'd perform for the customers there. It was, a grounding experience.
So the big aha moment, the discovery, it wasn't some dramatic audition. It came from a dance class.
That's right. Totally unexpected. She was taking dance lessons at St. Mary's Catholic Montessori School. Her dance instructor was just humming a tune. And 7-year-old Beyoncé apparently just spontaneously finished the melody, hit all the notes perfectly.
Just like that?
Just like that. Her vocal talent was basically discovered then and there. And it led almost immediately to her first, major win. A school talent show. She sang John Lennon's Imagine and won against kids who were way older, 15 and 16.
Singing Imagine against teenagers at age 7 and winning. Wow. Okay, so that innate talent, just discovered humming a tune. That definitely set her on the path, right, towards what became the biggest girl group of all time, Destiny's Child.
Yeah, the foundation for that blueprint was really set when she met Latavia Robertson back in 1990. They were auditioning for an all-girl group. Kelly Rowland joined them about 2 years later.
And they weren't Destiny's Child at first.
No. Initially, they were called Girls' Time. They did rap and dance routines, mostly on the Houston talent show circuit.
Girls' Time. And they famously had that early setback, right, on the national stage, losing Star Search in '93. Beyoncé later said it was down to a poor song choice, I think.
That's right. But the family's commitment after that loss, that was extreme. In 1995, Matthew Knowles, her dad, left his established, pretty lucrative job at Xerox to manage the group full-time.
That's a critical detail, isn't it? Quitting a major corporate job like that in the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
Especially with 2 kids.
Huge risk. It literally halved the family's income. It's forced major financial sacrifices. I mean, the family actually had to move into separate, less expensive apartments for a while.
Wow.
That level of parental commitment, that kind of pressure cooker environment, that's where Beyoncé learned to perform, to compete, The stakes were incredibly high from the start.
And that gamble, it paid off. Dramatically. The group eventually became Destiny's Child in 1997, right? Taking the name from a passage in the book of Isaiah.
Yep. And their mainstream breakthrough was just massive. Their second album, The Writings on the Wall in 1999, I mean, that thing became one of the best-selling R&B albums ever. Sold something like 13 million copies worldwide.
13 million. It was just everywhere.
A total global phenomenon. It gave us those huge genre-defining hits like Bills, 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 and of course the Grammy-winning Say My Name, tracks that just fundamentally defined late 90s R&B.
Absolutely defined it. Then after several lineup changes, which was a pretty intense period, lots of public scrutiny, the final iconic trio formed, Beyoncé, Kelly Rowland, and Michelle Williams.
Right. And their third album, Survivor, in 2001, just kept that momentum blazing. Hits like Independent Woman Part 1 from the Charlie's Angels movie.
Yeah.
And crucially, Bootylicious.
Bootylicious. That's where they really left a mark on the language itself, didn't they?
They literally did. The phrase, that playful mix of booty and delicious, it became so culturally ubiquitous so fast that in 2004, it was formally added to the Oxford English Dictionary.
No way. That's incredible.
Yeah. They were shaping the actual vocabulary of pop culture before Beyoncé even launched her solo career.
They really did shape the language of pop, and they cemented that female empowerment theme too, which became so central to her early solo stuff. But the group, they eventually disbanded after the Destiny Fulfilled and Lovin' It tour in 2005, right? Which paved the way for, well, the incredible soloist sound.
The launch pad was set.
So, stepping out solo, Beyoncé didn't exactly ease into it, did she? Felt more like a dual attack, music and film, boom, at the same time. She exploded onto the screen with her movie debut in 2002, playing the unforgettable Foxy Cleopatra and Austin Powers in Goldmember.
Yeah, a whole lot of woman. And that coincided perfectly with her musical breakthrough that same year, which was the feature on Jay-Z's track, '03 Bonnie and Clyde.
Right. That video definitely fueled immediate speculation about them as a couple.
Oh, instantly. Though she later clarified the timeline, saying they actually started dating when she was 19, after being friends for about a year and a half. But that early synergy, music, film, that calculated relationship buzz, it kind of set a precedent for how she managed her public image.
Smart. Then came the earthquake, the release of Dangerously in Love in 2003. And this wasn't just a success, it was instant global domination.
Totally. Debuted at #1, gave her first solo #1 single, the iconic Crazy in Love, featuring Jay-Z.
That horn riff, unforgettable.
Instantly recognizable, right? And critically, it won her 5 Grammys right out of the gate, including Best Contemporary R&B Album.
5 Grammys for a debut album, wow.
And Crazy in Love, it's more than just a hit. It's like an immediate classic. It established her powerful solo sound, that perfect blend of funk, soul, modern R&B, all powered by that brass, and the album itself. To date, it sold 11 million copies. Still one of the best-selling albums of the entire 21st century.
It's just phenomenal. Okay, so her second album, B-Day, comes out in 2006. Strategically released on her 25th birthday, which was clever. Debuted at #1 again, of course. And had that massive hit, Irreplaceable. Remember that? To the left, to the left.
Oh, yeah. 10 weeks at #1. Huge song.
Huge. But this period, this is where we start seeing her maybe deliberately manage that duality, right? Being both this relatable person and this larger-than-life stage presence.
And that duality, that tension, it leads directly to, I think, the defining artistic pivot of that era. The formal introduction of her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, which came with the double album I Am Sasha Fierce in 2008.
Right, Sasha Fierce. Why was the alter ego necessary, do you think? Was it purely a commercial concept, or did it serve maybe a deeper, psychological purpose for her as an artist?
I think it was definitely a mix. The album itself was structured to kind of justify it, right? This dramatic dichotomy. The I Am side had the slower mid-tempo pop and R&B ballads that was meant to reflect her personal, maybe more vulnerable, introverted self. But the Sasha Fierce side, that was all about the up-tempo, aggressive beats, blending electropop, Europop. Reflecting that stage persona, she described herself as too aggressive, too strong, too sassy, and too sexy. She actually said publicly she needed that separation, to protect her real self from the insane demands of the business.
That makes sense. And Sasha Fierce delivered big time with Single Ladies, Put a Ring on It. That video. The black and white, the choreography.
Oh, a cultural phenomenon. It was parodied, imitated everywhere. Even President Obama did a little bit of it. The Toronto Star famously called it the first major dance craze of the internet age, which feels right.
It really does. The commercial success just kept rolling, I Am. Sasha Fierce sold over 10 million copies globally, another massive seller. But then by 2010, after just years of nonstop performing, recording, touring, seems like the pace just demanded a reset.
Yeah, it clearly led to a necessary break. She announced a 9-month hiatus in January 2010, just stepped away from the spotlight completely.
And she used that time to travel.
Yeah.
Right? Like really travel.
Yeah, extensively. Visited the Great Wall of China, the Egyptian pyramids, went to museums. Just, lived a little.
Good for her.
She even wrote about it. Chronicled the break in a cover story for Essence magazine titled Eat, Play, Love. Detailed the time away. It actually won her a writing award from the New York Association of Black Journalists.
Wow. I didn't know that. But the break wasn't all sightseeing, was it? It sounds like it was personal and deeply difficult, too.
It was. That vulnerability became really central to the narrative later. She shared retrospectively that she'd suffered a miscarriage around that time, described it as the saddest thing she'd ever endured.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And that pain, she said, served as a catalyst. It kind of compelled her back into the studio, writing music as a way to cope, to process it all.
And this return, this period, it also marked a major shift in her business structure, didn't it? In terms of control.
Yes. This is absolutely critical. In March 2011, Matthew Knowles stopped managing her career. So her next album, 4, released in 2011, became her first project where she had complete creative control, managed her own budget, her own artistic vision.
It's full autonomy.
Full autonomy. And notably, she made a really interesting choice musically. She leaned into traditional R&B and soul, actively kind of standing apart from the really prevalent EDM and synth pop trends that were huge in 2011.
So stepping out from her father's management, getting full creative control, it allowed her to make a bold, maybe even slightly retro artistic choice. And it clearly paid off.
Absolutely. The artistic integrity really shone through. And that album 4, it continues to perform incredibly well on streaming long after its release. In fact, in February 2018, it broke a Spotify record. Made her the first female artist to have 3 albums surpass 1 billion streams each on the platform.
1 billion streams.
Yeah.
Even for an album that bucked the trends of its time.
Exactly. So even while stepping away from the dominant pop sounds of that year, she laid the groundwork for future success. And she proved she could curate her sound independently, which is a skill that would very soon completely revolutionize the entire music industry.
Okay, so now we move into the era where she really transforms, right?
Yeah.
Stops being just a massive pop star and becomes this industry revolutionary, a disruptor. And it maybe starts with her prepping the biggest possible audience first, headlining the Super Bowl halftime show in 2013.
Super Bowl XL7. Yeah, that performance was definitely tactical. Generated something like 268,000 tweets per minute. Insane engagement.
Huge buzz.
It was the moment she just reminded the entire world of her absolute dominance as a live performer. But, looking back, it was really just the warm-up act.
The warm-up for the main event.
For the ultimate stealth strike, the completely unannounced, out-of-the-blue release of her self-titled album Beyoncé on December 13th, 2013.
Oh, man, I remember that day. It was seismic, completely unexpected. Just dropped onto the iTunes store, no prior announcement, no promotion, no lead singles, nothing. It just appeared.
Yeah, it fundamentally challenged every single established rule of music marketing and distribution at the time.
And the impact was immediate, wasn't it?
Instant shockwave. That surprise drop immediately set a global iTunes record. Sold 1 million digital copies worldwide in just 6 days. But the impact wasn't just commercial, though that was huge. It fundamentally changed how music was distributed and promoted, for everyone else, worldwide.
Exact. Can you elaborate on those industry implications? That sounds massive.
Yeah, this is where the term deep dive really fits.
Yeah.
Beyoncé is widely credited with popularizing 2 huge things, the surprise album drop, obviously, and the visual album format.
Right. Every track had a video.
A high-production music video for every single song, a massive undertaking. But the disruption was structural too. See, back then, highly anticipated albums usually dropped on a Tuesday in the US, which meant there was this window, like several days, for illegal downloads and piracy to spread overseas before the official release there.
Ah, okay, I see.
So when Beyoncé proved that dropping everywhere, simultaneously, globally, actually worked, that it maximized sales and minimized piracy, the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, the IFPI, they took notice. Big time.
So the action of this one artist actually led to a global standard changing.
Precisely. The IFPI formally adopted Friday as global release day for music worldwide, primarily to shrink that window for piracy on major releases. Artists like Taylor Swift, Drake, they immediately adapted their strategies. It was a single-handed change to global operations in the music business, driven by one album drop. That's real structural power.
That is incredible. And what's also important about that album, beyond just how it was delivered, is the thematic depth, right?
Yeah.
Musically, it was rooted in that kind of electro R&B sound. But lyrically, it explored some really dark, deeply personal stuff that she hadn't really touched on before.
Yeah, things previously kept very private, like bulimia, postnatal depression, the really complex emotional landscape of marriage, motherhood.
So much vulnerability. And yet, despite this intensely personal, maybe less obviously commercial approach, she continued her chart dominance, became the first woman in Billboard 200 history to have her first 5 studio albums debut at #1.
That balance, right? Vulnerability and commercial power. That's her signature move.
Then came what many people, myself included, maybe consider her artistic and political magnum opus, Lemonade in 2016.
Oh, Lemonade. Yeah. More than just an album, wasn't it? It was this hour-long conceptual musical film premiered on HBO, and it just sparked intense socio-political discourse everywhere about Black womanhood, infidelity, historical trauma.
It felt huge.
Musically, it was maybe her most eclectic project up to that point, fusing rock, country, gospel, reggae, blues. It wasn't just music. It was like a cultural text people were dissecting for weeks.
And the records just kept piling up, which proved again that complex, challenging art can be commercially massive. She became the first artist in Billboard history to have her first 6 studio albums debut at #1.
6 in a row.
And every single one of the 12 tracks from Lemonade charted simultaneously on the Billboard Hot 100. That was a first for any female artist.
Just total chart domination.
Yeah.
It was also the world's best-selling album in 2016, sold 2.5 million copies globally. So the commercial and the critical reception were perfectly in sync. But the controversy surrounding Lemonade was equally huge, right? Specifically around the lead single, Formation.
This is where her art moved explicitly into political protest territory, wasn't it?
Absolutely, no question. When she performed Formation during the Super Bowl 50 halftime show alongside Bruno Mars and Coldplay, remember she featured dancers referencing the Black Panther Party. They wore these black military-style uniforms, berets.
I remember the reaction. It was immediate.
Oh, yeah. Immediate backlash from conservative figures, law enforcement groups, especially given the NFL's, let's say, long-standing preference against overtly political statements during their big events.
And her response to the controversy, strategically, was just brilliant.
Masterful, wasn't it? It was this amazing move of turning critique into commerce. Instead of just ignoring the boycott Beyoncé calls, she literally sold boycott Beyoncé merchandise during her next tour.
Huh. That's bold.
Totally controlled the conversation and monetized the outrage directed at her. Genius.
And that tour itself, the Formation World Tour in 2016, that was a precedent setter too, right? The first all-stadium tour by a female artist.
Yeah, just demonstrating this massive scaling up of live production, audience reach. It redefined what was possible, what was expected for female artists on tour.
And she rounded out this incredibly public, powerful, sometimes controversial era with a major personal announcement, which, again, somehow managed to become a global cultural event in itself.
You mean the pregnancy announcement?
Yeah, February 2017. Announcing she was pregnant with twins, Rumi and Sir, but doing it via that intricately staged photo on Instagram.
Oh, that photo. It broke the internet. Garnered, what, 6.3 million likes in just a few hours? Set the world record for the most liked image on Instagram at the time. Her personal life, always carefully managed, had basically become peak performance art.
Okay, so moving into the more recent era, the modern era, we see Beyoncé focusing heavily on, like, archiving history and celebrating Black culture through her music, through her live shows. The first huge moment here was that 2018 Coachella performance. everyone just called Beychella.
Yeah, Beychella. And that performance, it really wasn't just a concert, was it? It was more like an academic celebration. It was praised universally as historic, became the most watched live performance ever on YouTube at the time.
And the key was that deep, intricate homage to Black culture, right? Specifically HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities.
Exactly, featuring the aesthetics, the marching band sound, the drum lines, the step choreography, the whole culture and scale of the HBCU experience. It was phenomenal.
It really felt like performance as cultural education.
Yeah.
Elevating this distinctly African-American experience onto the biggest global festival stage.
She continued that thread, that cultural celebration, with her work on Disney's Lion King remake in 2019. She voiced Nala, of course.
Right.
But more importantly, she curated the companion album, The Lion King, The Gift. And she consciously moved beyond just American R&B for that. She incorporated African genres like Afropop and Jukum. And she recruited a whole slate of African producers, making sure the music authentically reflected the film's setting.
That commitment to incorporating, elevating international Black artistry, it really culminated in her cementing her historical status at the Grammys, didn't it?
Yeah. In 2021, at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards, she won 4 awards, which made her the most awarded singer and the most awarded female individual in Grammy history at that point.
That felt like a real turning point. She transitioned from just being a contemporary superstar to being like an acknowledged historical figure in music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which leads us to her current massive undertaking, the genre-redefining trilogy project. It kicked off with Renaissance in 2022, and that album, developed and recorded during the COVID pandemic, was explicitly announced as Act 1 of a 3-part project.
Renaissance, Act 1.
And Renaissance was this powerful, incredibly deeply researched statement, focused specifically on Black dance music, drawing heavily from disco, techno, house genres. And the key artistic motivation she made clear was this explicit homage to the historically overlooked contributions of Black queer pioneers, the people who created and shaped those genres in the 70s and 80s. She was ensuring their legacy was recorded, celebrated in a major commercial work.
Putting their history front and center. And commercially, still dominant. Renaissance debuted at #1, making her the first artist ever to have her first 7 studio albums debut consecutively at #1.
7 in a row. And the lead single, Break My Soul, that also hit #1, which put her in this really elite group alongside legends like Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, the only artist with at least 20 top 10 singles as solo acts and 10 as members of a group.
That just speaks to such a unique, like, generational presence in pop music, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But we do have to address the controversy that came up around this period, specifically that private concert she did in Dubai in early 2023. That felt like a real tension point for some people between the album's message and maybe the business decisions. It absolutely was a flashpoint. She was reportedly paid something like $24 million for the show, which was for the opening of the Atlantis The Royal Hotel there. But it drew immediate and pretty sharp criticism because the United Arab Emirates has laws that criminalize homosexuality.
Right.
So critics argued that accepting such a massive fee to perform in a country that actively harms the very community celebrated by Renaissance, well, it exposed a potential contradiction between the corporate revenue needs and her artistic or activist message.
A definite point of discussion around brand integrity, for sure. But the trilogy itself marched onward with Act 2, Cowboy Carter, released in 2024.
Cowboy Carter, Act 2, an Americana-inspired epic, and a really direct reclamation project highlighting the foundational role of Black people, specifically Black women, in developing country music, a history that's often been sidelined or ignored by mainstream Nashville.
It felt ambitious musically, too, featuring her singing in her natural Texan accent sometimes, which was cool to hear, and, remarkably, adopting a classical operatic style on one track.
Yeah. I found that fascinating, too. She performs a piece of an 18th century Italian aria, Caro mio ben, on the track, Daughter.
Why? Why include classical opera in what's framed as a country album? What's the thinking there?
I think it speaks to the album's bigger theme, that musical mastery, Black artistry, transcends genre boxes and historical categories. By including a piece of high culture European classical repertoire, she's showcasing her immense technical vocal range, obviously. But she's also connecting that perceived high culture to the folk roots of Black American music, reinforcing the idea that Black artists belong everywhere, every genre, every category, high and low. It's a statement.
That makes sense. And this album, Cowboy Carter, it broke her own ultimate chart record, right? debuting at #1, making her the only female artist in U.S. history to debut her first 8 studio albums at #1.
8 for 8. Unprecedented. And her Grammy success reached its absolute peak in 2025. Her wins that year cemented her status as the most awarded individual in Grammy history, period, with 35 wins total now.
35. So staggering.
And importantly, with Cowboy Carter, she became the first Black artist to win Best Country Album, and the first Black woman to win the overall Album of the Year Grammy in 25 years. That kind of genre-crossing validation really highlights the historical weight and impact of this whole trilogy project.
Okay, so beyond the music, beyond the stage, her story is also one of just meticulous brand building and, frankly, entrepreneurial genius. Let's look at that sophisticated business side of the Beyoncé blueprint.
Yeah, her independence, her power, it's really rooted in structure. Starting with Parkwood Entertainment, which she founded way back in 2008. It's an entertainment and management company, but it's way more than just like a vanity label.
Right.
It functions as this whole content hub. It encompasses music. Films like Black is King was a Parkwood production, and it has a music division that's responsible for developing other artists, like the amazing duo Chloe X Halle. And her fashion ventures seem equally strategic. She launched House of Darion back in 2005 with her mother, Tina, named after her grandmother. But the brand that really demonstrated her corporate muscle, I think, is Ivy Park, launched in 2016.
Ivy Park, yeah, that one's highly personal too.
Yeah.
Named after her daughter, Blue Ivy, obviously. Her favorite #4, the Roman numeral safer, and a park in Texas where she apparently used to run.
Okay.
But the key business move came later. In 2018, these allegations surfaced that the Topshop owner, Philip Green, who was her 50-50 partner in Ivy Park at the time, had sexually harassed and abused employees.
Right, a huge scandal. And she responded pretty decisively, didn't she?
Yeah, she leveraged her power immediately.
Yeah.
Bought out Philip Green's 50% stake in the company, taking 100% control of Ivy Park, and that move was crucial. It protected her brand image from being associated with that scandal, obviously, but it also gave her full autonomy over this really lucrative activewear brand. It showed this kind of zero-tolerance approach to professional ethics in her business dealings. Smart and principled. Her current ventures show just how broad her reach is becoming now. It's not just music and fashion, it's lifestyle, luxury.
Yeah.
In 2024, she launched Secret, right? A hair care line designed for a wide range of hair textures.
Yep. And then later in 2024, she announced Sir Davis, a whiskey brand, in collaboration with the luxury giant Moet Hennessy.
Wow. Whiskey now, too. She's also an endorsement powerhouse, obviously. That huge $50 million deal with Pepsi back in 2012 really stands out, demonstrated her incredible market value even then.
Huge deal. And she also became a co-owner of the streaming platform Tidal in 2015, alongside Jay-Z and several other major artists, which was a strategic move, trying to gain better control over distribution revenue in the streaming age.
But even these high-profile partnerships, they sometimes court controversy, don't they? Like when she and Jay-Z partnered with Tiffany & Co. for that About Love campaign, she was photographed wearing the massive 128.54-carat Tiffany yellow diamond.
Right. Yeah. Which sparked immediate, intense criticism. Exactly because of that tension we keep talking about between her social activism messaging and her commercial choices.
Okay, wait. If her artistic work, especially from Lemonade onwards, is so explicitly focused on cultural reclamation, honoring marginalized histories, highlighting historical injustice, how did she, or how did her team, kind of reconcile using a symbol, that specific diamond that's so clearly associated with colonial exploitation?
That is the central tension, isn't it, of her modern brand. That diamond, it's classified by many as a blood diamond, mined under incredibly harsh conditions during colonial rule in South Africa. So for many critics, wearing a gem with that specific painful history, especially in a campaign literally called About Love, was seen as insensitive at best, hypocritical at worst, contradictory to her activist messaging. Her brand is just constantly intersecting with these intense political, cultural conversations. And those tensions, yeah, they sometimes clash with the perceived necessity of these huge corporate partnerships. It's complex.
It really is. Okay, shifting back to her pure artistry, she's often described as a musical chameleon, right? Her main genres are R&B, pop, hip-hop, blending soul and funk elements. But the real hallmark of her career seems to be that continuous, often dramatic reinvention of her sound.
Totally. You see this dramatic evolution from album to album. It demonstrates, I think, immense fearlessness. Like her self-titled album introduced that minimalist, kind of fragmented structure. using emotive falsetto, even what some critics called hood rapping, just moving away from traditional pop song structures towards atmosphere and mood.
Right, very different.
Then you get the stark contrasts, like the 80s electropop sounds on I Am Sasha Fierce. Then fast forward to the deep Afropop and Jukam sounds she explored on The Gift. Each phase just demands this sonic recalibration from the listener. You have to go with her.
And her voice itself is obviously key to her legacy. She's got a mezzo-soprano range technically, but it's the sheer power, the technique, the control that sets her apart. I remember Jody Rosen, the critic, described her voice as one of the most compelling instruments in popular music.
That feels accurate. And her vocal techniques are just so notable, so varied across her catalog. On Dangerously in Love, you hear those sultry, like, utters and then these powerful, sustained belts. Think of Listen from Dreamgirls, maybe, or the high points in Crazy in Love.
Yeah.
Contrast that with the more brassy, almost gritty vocal textures she used on Four. And then jumping ahead again, embracing that full-on operatic style on Cowboy Carter's Daughter.
Yeah.
It just demonstrates extreme technical control, executing classical singing while still being able to deliver raw hip-hop flows maybe on the next track. It's incredible range.
Her songwriting, her themes, they've evolved dramatically too, mirroring her career arc. Early on with Destiny's Child, it felt like it was all about female empowerment, right? That independent women ethos that shifted more towards romance, the complexities of finding love, with Dangerously in Love.
Then came those really highly personal themes on Four in the self-titled album.
Yeah.
Delving into marriage, monogamy, intimacy with this, like startling honesty for a pop star of her level. And then post-2016, she really moved into outright socio-political statements, cultural reclamation, especially highlighting Black womanhood, historical contributions with Lemonade, Renaissance, Cowboy Carter.
Some scholars have actually described her work not just as creation, but almost as the work of a meticulous curator, likening her storytelling to a modern-day griot.
Yeah.
You know, someone archiving history through performance for future generations.
That's a great comparison. And speaking of history, her influences are foundational, and she's very deliberate about citing them. She always points to Michael Jackson as her greatest influence, says attending his concert when she was just 5 helped her realize her purpose as a performer.
Wow, age 5.
Yeah. And she also credits legends like Tina Turner, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston as major inspirations, all iconic Black women who defined stage presence and vocal prowess across decades.
Her influence now is so vast, it actually extends into academia, doesn't it? Her artistry, her career, they're studied in universities all over the world. Yale University, for instance, offers a course specifically on her legacy, analyzing her work through lenses of feminism, critical race theory, media studies.
Yeah, she's become a subject of serious academic study. And beyond the academic, her influence is felt just daily in mainstream culture through phrases she popularized that just entered the lexicon. They're instant cultural shorthand now.
Like what?
We'll put a ring on it, obviously, for a proposal. The ultimate selfie caption, I woke up like this.
Classic.
And that decisive breakup dismissal. Boy, bye. They're just part of the language now.
They really are. Okay, finally, we have to touch on her engagement with feminism and her philanthropy. She identifies as a modern-day feminist, right? A position she really publicly aligned with when she sampled Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's famous TEDx speech, "We Should All Be Feminists," on her track. Flawless.
Right. That was a huge statement. However, that stance, her brand of feminism, it has incited significant debate over the years. Critics, including prominent figures like Annie Lennox, have questioned if it aligns with older, maybe more activist, feminist ideals, sometimes calling it, maybe unfairly, feminist-lete.
What's the core criticism, usually?
Often it centers on whether her focus is weighted too heavily towards individual empowerment, maybe even capitalist empowerment, rather than confronting the larger structural issues that affect marginalized groups more broadly. It's an ongoing debate.
It's definitely a compelling conversation. How does a massive mainstream celebrity embody feminism in the 21st century? But her philanthropy, on the other hand, seems pretty wide-reaching and often quite personal. After Hurricane Katrina, she co-founded the Survivor Foundation.
Yeah, significant early work there. And after she learned about Phoenix House, that's a nonprofit focusing on rehab, while she was filming the movie Cadillac Records.
Where she played Etta James, right?
Exactly. She donated her entire $4 million salary from that film to Phoenix House, and then later funded and established the Beyoncé Cosmetology Center there, specifically to help with job training for the residents.
That's amazing. $4 million salary donation. And in recent years, her Bay Good initiatives and the contributions she and Jay-Z have made together, they seem really critical too. contributing tens of thousands to post bail for Black Lives Matter protesters, helping fund the infrastructure for BLM chapters across the U.S.
Yeah, direct support for activism. She also supported efforts around the Flint water crisis and just recently, in 2024, introduced an annual grant program for cosmetology students, showing this continued focus on, like, vocational empowerment, practical help.
That's great. And we absolutely cannot end this section without the ultimate geek fact, the one that confirms her reach extends, like, beyond the planet and into the insect world.
Yes, you have to mention the fly. In 2012, an Australian scientist, because this particular insect had distinctive golden hairs on its abdomen, named a species of horsefly Scaptia Beyoncé after her.
Named a fly after Beyoncé because it had a golden bud.
Yeah.
That is truly next-level influence, isn't it? When science itself recognizes you.
It doesn't get much more iconic than having a fly named after you.
What an incredible journey. Just tracing this career that has really defined modern stardom in so many ways. So to try and synthesize what we've unpacked here for you, I think the key takeaway is that Beyoncé's lasting legacy, it's built on this really precise, disciplined combination. On one hand, the deliberate artistic reinventions, that musical chameleon approach we talked about, paired with these radical, often really risk-taking distribution and business strategies, like the surprise album, the visual album. She established herself not just as arguably the greatest performer of her generation, but as a genuine business innovator, and crucially, as a meticulous cultural historian, especially in her later work.
Her actions directly influence the very structure of the music industry, from establishing Global Release Day, like we discussed, to revitalizing the idea of the album as a cohesive narrative, a deep experience, even in the age of streaming singles. Her influence is cited by artists across all genres, all generations. From Taylor Swift to Paul McCartney, people praise her business model, her commitment to perfection in live shows.
And her ability, especially recently, to synthesize overlooked Black history, marginalized cultural contributions, whether it's from house music pioneers or Afrobeats artists or the Black roots of country music, and translate that into massively commercially successful, globally accessible art. That sets a really unique standard for what a 21st century artist can achieve. She doesn't just borrow from the past, she actively archives it and reintroduces it to a massive audience.
Yeah, and that leads us, I think, to a really profound final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Given that her extensive body of work, particularly this current trilogy, is now so actively dedicated to celebrating historically marginalized Black pioneers across music genres, house, disco, country, Afrobeats, we have to ask, right? Is she currently, maybe intentionally, building the definitive, commercially viable archive of 21st century Black American musical history? Is she ensuring that no contribution remains overlooked for future generations?
That is a really compelling question to end on. Is she the archivist now? Something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this extraordinary exploration of the Beyoncé blueprint.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.